everybody, and welcome to the final episode of This Is a Talk Show. Me and Adam have had a great time doing this show for you all this time, but it is time for us to move on to some different stuff. So I've got some departure themed music for both of my songs today. My first one comes from Benjamin Britten's Les Illuminations, which is the poetry of Arthur Rimbaud, famous French poet who flamed out at the age of 21 and went off to work in the French colonial service in some very problematic way. Anyway, this is a song called Départ. Oh, c'est vu, la vision s'est rencontrée à tous les airs. Ah, c'est rumeur de ville, de soirée, de soleil et toujours. Ah, c'est connu, les arrêts de la vie, révision. Départ dans l'affection et le bruit neuf. And now welcome your host, Adam Bailey.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our final episode of This Is a Talk Show. And yeah, this is it. This is the end. We have our most frequent guest, Daniel Krolik from the podcast Bad Gay Movies, Bitchy Gay Men, joining us today. And we have one of our very first guests from our very first episode. We have Ryan Adam Wells joining us all the way from Houston today. And I'm really excited about that. But it is time for us to say goodbye. And you might think otherwise, but let's face it, if the girls from Sex and the City can get back together just to make some low ball pandemic era jokes, then we know that this comedy cavalcade, COVID-19, it's over. It's time for us to get rid of that COVID-19 pounds. Maybe just hop on that Peloton bike and just keep riding that weight off and that pandemic off and just keep riding into that sunset. And good news, I hear that Peloton bikes are rather cheap right now. I don't know why, but they've become extremely affordable in the last week. Oh, and speaking about women from a different era whose popularity you kind of want to keep kind of contained to that era so they can't do anything to embarrass themselves or ruin your image of them, Hillary Clinton is teaching a class on Masterclass. And in this new course, Hillary Clinton is going to read to us her 2016 acceptance speech for the presidency of the United States of America. Something that did not happen and kind of feels like an erasure of the last 5 years that we've all been forced to go through. In fact, it feels a little bit less like a masterclass and more like something Kevin Feige might do to integrate the multiverse into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, like in the new Spider-Man movie, we're gonna get Doc Ock from the Tobey Maguire years, we're gonna get Electro from the Andrew Garfield years, and we're gonna get Hillary Clinton from her presidency that never actually happened. Oh, and speaking of weird timeline shit, why is nobody talking about the fact that Bob Dole and Norm Macdonald died in the exact same year? Is it just because I'm a Gen Xer who is not taking care of a child and an aging parent at the same time that I am able to make the connection between Bob Dole and the man who played Bob Dole on TV dying weeks apart from each other? But it's something that I am definitely aware of, and it kind of weirds me out. But this is not everything that's happening right now. This is time for us to say goodbye. And I know that some people might think that we called a pandemic ENDemic special a little bit too early, considering that Omicron has a bunch of offices asking when the best time to go back to work is. A lot of offices said that January 10th was going to be their hard line to bring everybody back into the workplace. And now they're saying, well, 2023, that sounds like a more doable time. But Omicron or Nomicron, it is definitely time for us to say goodbye. And not like these offices that are dithering on the dates, more like that office that called everybody onto Zoom to fire 900 employees. And just like that, I'm going to call the woman who fired me and the woman who I fired back in return, Kristin Mueller-Heaslip, our co-host, back to the screen. Kristin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Adam. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I am sad to see that this is time for this show to come to an end, but it is a little pandemic-y, and even though we have waves before us, I do feel like our attitude towards the pandemic has changed. It's time for us to say goodbye. To say goodbye,
I agree. And it has been great doing this show all this time, and I don't know what I'm going to be doing on my every other Saturday afternoon. But the Omicron or Nomicron, as you said so well in your intro, people want to go out and do things in the real world instead of staring at their screens all day, and I can't say I blame them. So here's to real world happenings in 2022.
Here's to the real world happenings in 2022.
Yeah.
Omicron or Nomicron.
Well, Omicron or Nomicron.
Yeah. Omicron or Nomicron? This is we're gonna earworm that into existence. Yeah. That is our final gift to you. It's interesting, and we're not gonna do anything artificial. One of the things I was looking up when I was doing the monologue this week was a lot of offices, because they have these young workers who might have started just after the pandemic began. Their introduction to the work culture was getting a laptop handed to them in a parking lot, like they're buying like illegal drugs, and then being forced to work from home for the past 2 years. Offices then realizing that there are some skills that they weren't picking up because they weren't working side by side with senior employees. And so some skills that relate to the workplace just weren't being passed on to them. And so in the past 6 months, many offices have gotten situations where, they're letting small percentages of their workforce back. And so they'd make sure that the young workers were part of that. They would require them to go into the office. Unfortunately, because people weren't going back on the same days, and it was only a small percentage going back, it was more of a dead mall feel.
Yes,
so
I have done this. This is me.
Yeah. For young workers, it was their first time working in an office, and then they got to go and cosplay working in an office. Well, one other office worker was like way across the room, and that was the person they were supposed to learn from. But in reality, they just kind of sat there, like looked at them. Many of these young workers reporting that it made them feel more alone and more isolated than if they had just been allowed to stay at home.
Yes.
And now on top of that, at some point in 2022, they're all going to be forced to go back to the office, and suddenly their very transactional job is going to require them to get along with Amy from accounting, and that's how their job reports are going to be created. I think the next great wave of resignations is going to happen around the time when people realize that they have to deal with these other people in offices that they haven't met for 2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
But what about you're doing one of these jobs? What's that like?
Well, no, they did make us come back for 2 days a week, possibly going up in the new year. But I actually kind of like it because they have a really good coffee machine. And no one's there most of the time. So it's like you're kind of there, or there's people, but they're far away from you. I'm in a cubicle farm, but I don't have anyone next to me. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of nice because I get out of my house, and I was feeling very cooped up because I wasn't working. I was working from home before the pandemic. And then I was out of work, and then I got this new job, and I was like, I have been in this room, and my workspace, this is my workspace I'm sitting at right now. I just put a keyboard on it for the show. It's in my bedroom. So it's like, I feel like often it's like my whole life is in not just this apartment, but this like tiny room of it. So it is actually kind of nice to get out. But I don't think I would want to be there every day. And I can kind of see how people are like, Omicron or Nomicron, I'm not going in. That's another thing. That is the next wave of resignations as well, as people being forced back into the office saying, no, it's not happening.
No.
Yeah.
But one of the weird contradictions about that is you're less productive in an office, but some offices actually want that because the burnout rates are higher for people working at home, because knowing when you are or aren't working or what's a legitimate break is a lot harder to regulate when you're at home. But when you're at work, yes, you have to get along with Amy from accounting, but sometimes that means that you spend a half an hour just chatting with people in your workplace. And as an extrovert, these past 2 years of not getting that level of interaction with people has just been like, no, please talk to me. The first time I went into a store to buy something, like interpersonally, I think I stood there and talked to the person behind the counter for a half an hour.
Yes.
I hope I was funny. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
By the way, audience, Adam has a great story about getting banned from a No Frills. So let's hope he doesn't add to that goal.
I did not get banned from the pot shot that I went to and then talked for a half an hour with the person who was forced to come over to me with an iPad and punch in my weed order for me. No, I'm glad to actually get out and speak to people. And I'd actually like to start speaking to some of the people that we have on the show today. Yes. Let's start with our first guest, Daniel Krolik. Everybody put your hands together for Daniel Krolik. Hello. Oh, we're playing chess with death in the background. I love it.
Happy 2021, everybody.
Happy end of 2021, everybody. It's time to play chess with death. It's a little bit longer than checkers, so you get a little bit more
Spoiler
time.
alert, we all lose.
We all lose.
Every single one of us.
So how's your return to Omicron or Nomicron? How is your return to the real world going, Daniel?
I've returned to the real world? Is there something you know that I don't?
Well, I know that you've actually probably doubled down because you've been doing YouTube shorts as well as your podcast. So
yeah, and all of this takes place from this kitchen table in my apartment. I don't know if I've left my apartment since February 2020. Like I don't know out of the way.
So you don't even get to cosplay being in an office with someone. You are in the apartment the whole time.
Is this pandemic, has it been 2 weeks or 5 years? I don't know. I don't know.
I think you do know a little, because as an entertainment commentator, you do know a little bit about some of the stuff that's happened over the pandemic. And I'd love to get your feed on what you think some of the best pandemic entertainment has been over these past 2 years.
Ooh.
Rudy Giuliani aside, like that's that. My pick would be Rudy Giuliani, but we can put him aside. He was very entertaining, but for all the wrong reasons.
After everything that Rudy Giuliani put us through collectively, do we want to think about Rudy Giuliani again?
Well, if we catapult him into the sun,
do we want to keep returning to our abuser?
No. Give us some better things to remember the pandemic by, Daniel.
What I loved. Okay, so what I think, and I mentioned this on the podcast a couple of times, but I think the best, because dramatizing the pandemic in a television show or a movie or a play is so tricky and difficult, and it's usually unsuccessful because it's far from over. But I think the best dramatization I've seen of the pandemic has been on the television show Work in Progress, which is starring and created by Abby McEnany, who plays a big, fat, manic, depressive, obsessive, compulsive lesbian just trying to get through her day. And the filming of the second season was interrupted by the pandemic. So it was later incorporated into the storylines for the rest of the season. And basically she was like, because she has OCD, she's like, I've been preparing for this moment my entire life to clean everything and to not talk to anybody. Like, this is my jam.
Wow, that sounds like something that I need to add to the list. That's fantastic.
And because they had to sort of shift the narrative mid-season to incorporate the pandemic because they had to shut down filming and resume, it feels really like those fears that we all had whenever this started. When did this start? Has this just been our lives? I don't know anymore. When did the pandemic start?
March 2020. Yeah. Right
So,
after we did all those Great Gatsby parties. That was Great Gatsby parties, then a pandemic.
Amazing.
The answer is that it started when Adam had a live show booked.
Yeah. But it was really cool. Like it felt like I was watching those fears that we all had at that given moment in time play out in real time. And it was distressing and devastating, sure. But it was the only successful dramatization I've seen so far of the hellscape that we've all been through.
What about the Burnham Special?
I haven't seen it yet. I keep meaning to. I know. I'm somebody who needs to be a little bit forced to watch stand-up comedy. Like, I'll like a lot of it when I see it. I know, I just haven't yet.
It's a stand-up comedy show done by a musical theater kid who spent most of his time in his own bedroom with his own keyboard. And so the pandemic was a perfect thing for him. And he made these amazing, and everything is in a musical, like there's so much musical theater in this. There's Kurt Weill, there's Gilbert and Sullivan, but there's also like modern pop stuff. There's just, you as a musical theater lover, Daniel, you should have been on this, like white on rice.
I'll get to it. Well, the other thing that I do want to, if you're asking me what my favorite pandemic entertainment has been, and this is quite timely, was the 90th Sondheim birthday tribute from April 2020, which is still on YouTube, and which, in light of his passing, I think really demands a rewatch.
Wow, that's actually is very poignant, and that was something that they did on YouTube, and they got all the artists to create pieces on YouTube. Did any of them do it earlier, and they did a live performance that got shared?
No,
or was it all?
No, it was all pivoted right to YouTube. So everybody, and this was at the early days when everybody was really stuck in place, sheltering at home. So everybody just did what they could and recorded their bits at home, but. I think the whole thing is nearly 3 hours, and every single song is just devastating. So I think that absolutely bears a rewatch.
Okay, so our recommendations for people to remember this by, one more?
Oh, one more, yeah. So in light of the recent, we were talking about this earlier, in light of the recent drop of And Just Like That, there's this podcast that my co-podcaster Bill turned me on to. It's called Saving Sex and the City 3. So it started, it's hosted by the comedian Laura Marie Schoenholz, and it started as a response to Kim Cattrall pulling out of the third Sex and the City movie. So every episode, Laura Marie Schoenholz has a comedian friend on, and they hypothesize a plot for the canceled Sex and the City 3 movie. So sometimes somebody tries to assassinate Big. Sometimes Charlotte gets herself involved in a sex cult. Sometimes Magda is a double agent, but it's two comedians hypothesizing a plot for Sex and the City 3. There's been at least 2 where Samantha gets early onset.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But it's amazing. It's nonsensical. And it's done with equal parts love and parody, because we all love the Sex and the City gals, and we all acknowledge how ridiculous and obscene they are at the same time.
Well, so this is a fantastic lineup. So we have, for podcasters and comedy lovers, we have Saving Sex and the City 3. For musical theater lovers and just anyone with good taste, we have the Sondheim 90th birthday special on YouTube. I'm throwing in the Bo Burnham Inside special because
why not?
It's on Netflix, and it's brilliant. And then the sitcom Life in Pieces.
No, you never listen to anything that I say. Work in progress.
That was close. Making It Work?
No. It's 3 letters with a preposition thrown in the middle. No, it's not that close. And it's not a sitcom. It's like, it's a half-hour show that sort of like toes the line between comedy and drama. So you don't know what it is anymore. Work in Progress by Abby McEnany.
Yes, Work in Progress, Inside, Stephen Sondheim, and Sex and the City, Saving Sex and the City 3.
And one of the bonus features of Work in Progress is the character Abby has been tormented her entire life for looking like Pat from SNL. So eventually she tracks down Julia Sweeney, and Julia Sweeney plays herself and demands an apology from her. So Julia Sweeney, playing herself, is a recurring character on the show who is trying to atone for the character of Pat.
Oh my God, I want to watch that. That sounds fantastic. So, Work in Progress. Hey, Daniel.
Yes.
We're going to be doing the news in a bit. Do you want to stick around and do the news with us?
Where else am I going to go? I never go outside. Sure.
Oh, fantastic. Well, everyone, it's time to take a break from that. Let's welcome to our screens from Houston, Texas, Ryan Adam Wells.
Hey guys, how's it going? Can you hear me? Oh,
I can.
okay. I didn't know. Okay. Sorry, I'm at a distillery here in Houston, Old Humble Distilling Company. I played a show here today. It was outdoors and very spaced out and lots of fun, and I had a good time. But that's why I'm coming to you live from my Android phone in Houston, Texas, at this distillery. So I'm gonna play a song for you guys. I wrote this about the book series Wheel of Time before it was a TV show, and now it's a hit TV show on Amazon that everybody's watching and talking about. So maybe this song is relevant again, or relevant for the first time. I don't know how popular the books were really. I just loved them. But I call this Fork Root in the Wine, and hope you like it. Her eyes darkened and gazed up into mine with a hurt I will never cease to feel. She said, darling, is there fork root in this wine? With a voice so soft and hair full of daffodils. She was all I ever wanted, but the wheel weaves as the wheel will, and I could not keep my grip up on it. So I'm stuck here holding these withered daffodils. And her eyes darkened as she brought her face to mine and held my lips like a frozen windowsill. I said, darling, I can't let this one slide. And I looked where that fire still burned on the hill. She was all I ever wanted, but the wheel weaves as the wheel will, and I could not keep my grip up on it. So I'm stuck here holding these withered daffodils. Well, the rage grew as the flames died, and I flew before the wine dried. Her eyes darkened and gazed on me no more. I will always feel them, I feel them still. For my darling forsook me for her war, so I left her with her burning daffodils. She was all I ever wanted, but the wheel weaves as the wheel will, and I could not keep my grip up on it. So I'm stuck here holding these withered daffodils. Well, I'm stuck here holding these withered daffodils.
Ryan Adam Wells, everybody.
Thanks,
Nice. That was an awesome song. Thank you. Now, I have two questions for you to start off with. Omicron or Nomicron, I've heard that you are starting to talk about touring your hit show, The 500 List, about your creation of your 500 list that was your 500 favorite songs, and how you came up with that list. You're going to be touring that across North America once again. Is that accurate?
That is the plan. It's in the very, very early stages of planning right now. So I'm sourcing out venues and gauging interest in the cities that I'm going to. I'm it's a popular show, but not quite popular enough to just go anywhere. So I got to go places where I know people. But so I'm trying to.
But Omicron and Omicron, you're doing it. This is the plan.
I can't sit on my butt anymore. I got to go do stuff. So
okay.
I got to travel.
Question number 2. During this pandemic, there's been 2 massively hit songs, one called WAP and another one called Call Me By Your Name. And I'm wondering if either of these songs have made it onto your list and what songs might have been replaced. Like, did Wet Ass Pussy replace anything on the 500 list? And if so, which song got knocked because of it?
No. So a big part of the 500 list is it's staggered, like with time-wise. So when we initially composed the list, we had a rule that nothing that we heard within a 2-year span was allowed to be considered for the list. We had a 2 years to compile the list, and anything we heard in that 2 years, we couldn't even consider it, because we decided that 2 years was the exact right amount of time to determine if a song is actually one of your favorite songs, or if it was just like a passing phase or like a fad in your mind, because like, you know, for example, if you remember that song, that KT Tunstall song, Big Black Horse on the Cherry Tree. When that song came out, I was all about that song. And that song came out during the process of the list. And I was really mad that I couldn't put it on the list because I was playing it every single day. And now looking back on it, I'm thankful I didn't, because I don't give a shit about that song. It's like, it wouldn't make the list. It wouldn't have made it. So like,
Hobo Stank had a huge hit song and a huge hit career in the early 2000s, and nobody knows who Hobo Stank is anymore. So I understand that.
Nobody talks about Hobo Stank. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And you're coming to us from Texas. I don't want to get dark, but I'm going to. How relieved are you that a different state's law is going to be responsible for turning Roe versus Wade, and it's not going to be on your Texan shoulders? Is that something where you're just like, oh, a different red state has this nightmare title? Or
I don't know if relieved is the right word. There's nothing relief giving about any of this situation at all. But I guess it's nice that it's not Texas's fault. I mean, I live in Texas. I'm not a Texan. I'm not from here originally. So I'm a bit of a transplant in this state anyway. So I feel safe to shake my head at its constant F ups. Constantly making mistakes and like doing stupid things. I love a lot of things about this state, but man, I'll tell you, the politics is not on the list of things I love about the state. It is frustrating. It is constantly heartrending living here.
I've spent time in Texas, and everyone that I've ever met in Texas has been perfectly lovely, a wonderful human being, fantastic. And then you get into this, and as I've over the years have come to the realization that a lot of politics is, you know, it's just all lifestyle branding that sometimes turns into a cult. Like most people are liberal in their policy hopes and conservative in how they would make any of that stuff ever happen. And just how that gets parsed out through this lifestyle branding turns into really, really weird outcomes. I was reading Paul Krugman this week and him saying that the US economy is doing great right now, including jobs. People are working. There's like lots of people are doing it, but no one's optimistic about anything right now, and that's a huge issue. What's your solution for that? How would you make people optimistic in the States right now?
Oh God.
Is it just messaging? I keep on hearing messaging is the big thing, is that people need to be told how great things are actually going right now.
No, I mean, we've been fed that our entire lives as Americans. Like that's something we're fed from birth, is that everything is great. Don't question anything. Everything's wonderful here. It's fantastic. It's almost like North Korean to an extent, how intense the propaganda is growing up, like to believe that, you know, there's nothing wrong with this country and there can't be anything wrong. It's perfect. We're the best. And it is very frustrating. And now, you know, I think being an elder millennial growing up without the internet, and then suddenly the internet hits and now we all have the internet, and watching that shift, just the people having access, because we are technically a free country in that way, people having access to all that information is now what we're seeing now is this massive swell of people realizing that that's all bullshit propaganda, not real. And I think that's what's causing this massive shift in optimism to the pessimistic side, is that it's hard. Like I've read a lot of history books this year. I like to read. I set a goal for myself every year to read 25 books, and I have a different mini goal every year. Like last year, my mini goal was 60% non-white authors. This year, my goal was 50% history, like educational, basically. I wanted to just learn. And I read a lot of history books about the US, and I thought it would give me like some like fire in my gut to be like, yeah, we're gonna fix things, we're gonna make things better. But really all it did was leave me feeling more bleak and more disappointed, because it's always been a mess. It's just always been a mess here, and the politics have always been vicious and full of lies and full of disdain for the common man, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what the way to. I honestly wish I had a magic thing that I could say that we could like, hey, let's fix this and make everybody optimistic again. But I don't know that there's a way to do that without full scale revolution. It's bleak. Things are hard here right now. Ooh.
You're glitching out on, but I can tell from my husband in the other room that you're coming through strong clear on Kristin's line. I can't hear what you're saying, unfortunately, right now. Maybe it'll clear up in 1 second. I was hearing that you're reading a lot. I've been also reading a lot of that history, and it's really important that people do read it. Although it's sometimes you have to find the optimism in the cracks too. Is that's the real trick. And I think other countries that have been more realistic, there's always that comparison to Germany. Germany doesn't deny its history, and because of that, they're able to move in the right direction because they have a clear view of the horrible thing that they've done, and they can move because of that. And I think maybe sometimes a little bit of poison is the cure. It's sort of like the vaccine. A little bit of poison is the cure. Hey,
exactly.
We're going to talk about some news, and a lot of it's world news. Would you like to do the news with us?
I would love to. Sounds great.
Fantastic. Let's bring back Daniel Krolik and Kristin Mueller-Heaslip so we can do the news.
This is a news segment. The thing you froze on, Adam, was Ryan Adam Wells calling for total revolution. So the official position of the show is revolution now. All right. Let's get on with some news. This is a news segment. So first off, as I always say, my last time I get to make this disclaimer, we only choose the most hard-hitting, important, world historic news stories to cover here on This Is a Talk Show. So starting off, Stephen Sondheim voted for Team America World Police for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So, I mean, I have not seen this movie since 1997, but I believe I did quote it in a paper in university, so I agree. Thoughts? Team America World Police.
Sondheim was a massive fan of Trey Parker and Matt Stone. He loved them. He loved South Park. He sent them, after Sondheim saw the South Park movie Bigger, Longer, and Uncut in the theaters, he sent Trey and Matt a letter proclaiming it to be the greatest musical written in the last 25 years. He's like, you've written the best musical in 25 years. It's incredible. I loved it. And they have it framed in their office. They've got this framed letter from him. Sondheim was a massive South Park fan and Trey and Matt Stone fan. Like, he loved those guys. So I'm not surprised at all that he voted for Team America for Best Movie. And honestly, I'm not sure that I disagree with him. Team America was a lot of fun. It was really good. And it was, at the time, biting satire. So, like, you know.
What was it up against? I can't remember. 2004.
No notes. Okay. 2004. Oh, that might have been like Ray and $1 Million Baby.
Ugh.
Nobody gets beaten to death like Hilary Swank.
Master and Commander, Far Side of the World, Seabiscuit, Lord of the Rings, Return of the Kings, Mystic River, and Lost in Translation.
Yeah, it should have been Team America then, because all those movies are.
Yeah. And Team America holds up. I mean, it's almost 20 years old, but the satire absolutely holds up. And I think, if anything, the idea of these do-gooding celebrities who don't really think things through is even more potent than it was in 2004.
And the Alec Baldwin critique is even more potent now.
Trey Parker and Matt Stone foresaw Alec Baldwin and Mel Gibson. They were ahead of the curve.
Yeah. But Sondheim generally has impeccable taste. And like, just to circle back to South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut, the reason that it is so successful as a movie and as a musical is because it plays by the rules, because it's clear that the writers have such fealty and such adherence to the rules of musical theater and why people would sing a song. And they're not just saying, hey, look at this dumb genre. Hey, look at this like silly bullshit genre. Like, it's clear from watching that movie that Trey and Matt love musical theater.
I also have to just say this really quick because I'm remiss if I don't say this anytime it comes up. It was up against Lost in Translation, which is my least favorite movie of all time.
Your least favorite movie of all time?
Yes, I despise Lost in Translation.
Lost in Translation is a movie I have not thought about since I've seen it. I'm pretty sure I liked it, but why is it your least favorite movie of all time?
I have a real problem with entertainment where nothing happens. I don't like books or movies where the whole point of it is that nothing is happening. Like I don't enjoy Jane Austen for that reason. I don't. I hated Lost in Translation.
White Lotus. What about White Lotus?
Haven't seen it.
So much happens in White Lotus. So but
it's a Chekhov piece. It's everything happens and nothing happens. This is the thing that Ryan hates, apparently.
Which is funny because I love Chekhov. Chekhov is probably my favorite playwright. But there's something, I think with Chekhov, what you get is that it's so emotionally driven and so like driven by, I love the concept of driving the scenes with the emptiness, like the pauses having more power than the words at times. That's what I love about Chekhov, but maybe it doesn't translate to film for me.
It's lost in translation.
Okay, well, we can debate the value of the works of. We'll debate the
I will never stop talking about Sondheim, but I just do want to draw people's attention to this Instagram account that just got started after his death called Letters from Sondheim. He was a notorious corresponder. So if he would receive a piece of mail from anybody, no matter who they were, he would respond. He never let a piece of mail or a fan letter or anything go unresponded to. So this Instagram started right after his death, where people are sending in their responses from Sondheim. So I think, that's actually where the whole Team America stuff came up, because either Trey or Matt, I can't remember which one, posted their response from Sondheim praising that movie.
Wow. Did you write him a letter, Daniel?
I'm sorry?
Did you write him a letter?
You know what? I never did, because I never knew exactly what to say. But for years, I had his address on my bulletin board. Somebody gave me his address. So for years, I used to have on his bulletin board, but sadly, I never knew what to say.
Well, speaking of things that would leave you speechless, I thought I was going to die. Otters attack British man in Singapore Park. This man was bitten 26 times in 10 seconds by a group of otters.
Kristin, are we talking, just to make it clear, are we talking about otters, the animals, or like skinny, hairy gay men? Or skinny, hairy gay men?
No, we are not talking about metaphorical otters. We are talking about literal
actual
aquatic mammals.
Because I have been bitten 26 times by metaphorical otters, and I have survived.
Well, so with this man, Graham George Spencer, apparently his name is, it's at some kind of botanical garden in Singapore, where apparently otters like to hang out, and they're quite territorial. So what is the cutest animal that you think could kill you in a public garden?
I mean, let me say, I got a buddy who works at the aquarium in Orlando, Florida, and he will go on a tirade about how awful otters are. He despises them. He's like, they're the worst animals. They're horrible. They hate everything. They want to kill everything. They're monsters. I've heard him give this rant a couple times. So that headline is not at all shocking to me.
And they have cute little otter hands. They hold hands when they sleep so they don't float away from each other.
Yeah, they're perfect for choking.
They're perfect for choking. I know that 3 people die every year in the United States from chipmunk attacks. So the cutest animal that you can die from apparently is a chipmunk, because I don't think you can get much cuter than a chipmunk. But when they attack, it's deadly.
There may be some background noise on my end because there's a tour of the distillery going on right now.
Oh, okay, cool. That's what that is.
What's the next story, Kristin?
All right. Well, in more animal news, a shocking expose. Dozens of camels barred from Saudi beauty contest over Botox. Did you know there were camel beauty pageants? Because I did not. But apparently, unscrupulous camel merchants have been doctoring their camels to make them more beautiful. And they have been found out and stopped.
As if these camels would be the first beauty pageant contestants to get Botox.
I mean, our new UK Drag Race queen has done plastic surgery and Botox at the age of 19, and as she said, "My body, my choice." Well, you know, she wanted higher cheekbones to do the makeup better on. So
but Botox. Why would you need? You don't have wrinkles when you're 19. What are you Botoxing? Like
because she wanted to look a certain way. She wanted her face to look a certain way.
Guess so.
Ryan, have you ever thought about getting Botox?
I have not, but a lot of people in my immediate family and life get it on the regular. So for me, it's like, yeah, do what you want to do. Like, live your life, make your face look how you want it to look. You know, I've always thought that once I start to look a little bit more like a rough cowboy, it'll just help my music. So
men have that aging roughly thing helping us, and it does not seem to be the same truth for women, unless you're like in a Jane Campion film. Like it's everyone else has, all the other women have to. But once again, these are not women; they are camels.
Camels, yeah. And it is in the context of some kind of camel selling thing. So I think maybe it's more the dishonesty. You think you're getting a really hot camel, and it's actually just a kind of ordinary looking camel.
It's a catfishing camel. The camel is posting pictures of himself. The camel is posting pictures of himself.
Camel use Facetune.
Yeah, the camel is posting old, skinny, muscular pictures of himself from 10 years ago, and then catfishing everybody into thinking that he still looks like that. It's not cool, camel.
And that's how you get banned from RuPaul's Drag Race.
Honestly.
Well, moving on to some science news. We call it news from space. There's no actual space in this week's episode, though. Here's a really cheery story. World's first living robots can now reproduce, science say.
Oh, good.
So the way that these robots reproduce are not by, if I'm remembering this article correctly, they don't split, they don't create two robots or something like that. They kind of gather a ball of matter from whatever kind of thing they are. I believe they're microscopic. And then that will split off into another thing. It's a unique form of reproduction.
Do they make small talk first?
I don't know. History, the science does not relate if one robot takes the other one out for a dinner first. But
okay.
Well, I think that all consent needs to be enthusiastic. So I'm a little bit upset that these robots are kind of hedging that bet there. But you know, robots got to do what robots got to do. I'm not there. I'm just wondering if the scientists have ever seen Stargate.
It would be pretty crazy if after these 2 years where it seemed like the end of the world was going to come from a pandemic, just out of nowhere, from last place, in comes in robot revolution. Boom. Like shocking. What an upset.
But I think if that would happen, God forbid, we would just collectively shrug because we're
yeah. Okay, why not? Sure. Asteroid, why not? Whatever.
We'd all put a Jennifer Love Hewitt and like come out of the rain being like, come and get me.
No, we'd all be like, hey, the CEO who fired 900 of us by Zoom, that was really shitty. It might be better. Maybe they realize that we need to go to the washroom. They'll be like, hello, biome, it is time for your washroom break. It's like, wow, this boss is way better than Jeff Bezos.
If the robots will make abortions legal, I'll welcome them as our overlords.
Yeah, they can't be worse than the current government, right?
Can't be worse than Greg Abbott.
Yeah. Well, if the news is getting you two down, Sweden has a solution. Suicides pod is being developed in Switzerland, providing users with a painless death. This story is darker than you would think, even from that description, because the suicide pod has some kind of dialogue, which is supposedly AI driven. Did you know that most of the time when a company says something is AI, it's actually being remotely operated by a worker in the global south? So you get to chat probably with some underpaid worker in a call center in India or the Philippines.
You might not even
off
speak
yourself.
Are you do you obligatorily listen to the MASH song "Suicide is Painless" while this happens?
I don't think so, but you could probably request it.
I'm all for this. I'm very in favor of this. I think this is great. This is a great idea. That's why not? Why not? There's no reason not to do this. I think it's fantastic. I think we worry so much about keeping people alive when they really don't want to be. I mean, why? Why spend money frantically trying to force people to do something they don't want to do? This is bodily autonomy again. It's the same argument as the abortion argument in my mind. And absolutely, this should be a thing. This should 1000% be a thing that people can do.
I'm pro legal suicide. I do think that for some people there might be temporary periods where their body chemistry might be sending them that signal that would not be normal for them. And until we have better mental health care for those people, that would be, I wouldn't want them just out in that beautiful field in Switzerland, that company had placed them. Walk to this beautiful field, hop in this pod, do what they do in Futurama, talk to a robot, bite his shiny metal ass. This is something that I think has that plus if you're looking for it, but I think you should have to be able to talk to someone who's not an underpaid tech worker in the global south before you do it. I think you should actually have someone be like, so can we check your body chemistry and make sure that you're not just having a depressive episode? That would be.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that fully. That's I mean, mental health care should be our number one. The first thing that we start with with repairing the world is fixing mental health care and reshaping it and making it a thing that actually does what it's supposed to do.
So basically the list is number 1, mental health care, number 2, Botox for camels, and number 3, abortions.
I have no problem with that list.
Go with that, and then if you still can't hack it, go in the pod in Switzerland. It's cool. But once we've got our utopian society set up, then you'll really know if it's what you want or if it's just here's more things that might make you feel a little bit like leaving. A snowstorm trapped 50 people in a remote pub with an Oasis tribute band for 3 days. So in some northern England, unexpected extreme weather trapped 50 people in the pub for several days because of a snowstorm, because they don't usually have big snowstorms there. But fortunately, yes, they've been passing time by playing board games and eating roast dinners, but they've run out of sausages.
So are they free now? Did they get out?
Yes, this story is from about a week ago.
Well, I hope they don't look back
over the wonder wall and escaped.
Daniel, did we both try to make an Oasis pun at the same time?
What was yours? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I said I hope they don't look back in anger on this.
Oh, I said they escaped by climbing over the wonder wall.
Bravo. Yeah.
Oh, these jokes are a champagne supernova.
It's too bad Oasis never recorded a song called Botox for Camels.
Yeah, that would be really perfect. Yeah.
It's too bad they didn't actually trap the Gallagher brothers in a bar with snow.
Oh my God.
An Oasis cover band for 3 days wouldn't be my worst fate. I could think of worse cover bands to be trapped in a bar with.
All right, I want to hear some of them.
Coldplay is the music that they force you to listen to when you get into one of those suicide pods. I have said for years, Coldplay is the music you leave on the radio when you just drive your car into the river and just let it float. That's the band for that.
Can I divulge some personal information about Adam Bailey for a moment, please? Because it's our last episode. When Adam Bailey broke up with his first love, we were living together at the time, and he played Yellow on a rotational loop for weeks. So you shut up about your Oasis, about your Coldplay dissing Adam Bailey.
In Adam's defense, that album is their best album by a lot. Yeah. I think my nightmare band for being trapped in a pub would be a Radiohead cover band. I think I would just want to
never end.
That's
I think mine would be Sugar Ray.
Are there any is there a Sugar Ray cover band?
No, there's no where is the where is the market need for Sugar Ray cover bands? Who is begging for a Sugar Ray cover band to come play their event?
Depressed 40-year-olds in the suburbs.
But did they have any songs beside that one? Wasn't it just I Just Want to Fly, and then it would just be album? It would just be album.
She always rights the wrongs. There's two.
Okay, next. Daniel wins. Next story.
All right. Now we're going to come to a segment we like to call Today in Drugs.
Which is every day.
Every day. Substance abuse related stories.
Yeah.
Toronto plans to decriminalize drugs for personal use and how this will work. So when Adam sent me this story, he said, I'd like to congratulate drugs on winning the war on drugs. So decriminalizing drugs in Toronto. I know, very relevant. I live in Montreal. Ryan lives in Texas, but you and Adam can talk about it, Daniel.
It's another place doing this where the local police just will not be arresting or pressing charges on anyone who has smaller personal amounts of drugs on their body, and not treating people who are users as if they are criminals. So I think that's a fantastic thing. And yes, I'd like to congratulate drugs on winning the war on drugs. And I think that is one of these things that should happen in more places, because petty drug charges tends to be something that if you look one way, you're more likely to face when you're caught by police with these things in your pocket than if you look another way. It's just, if you're in a business suit and you happen to have a little bit of cocaine on you, chances are the cops aren't going to throw you into jail. But if you're wearing a hoodie, chances are the cops are going to throw you into jail.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So what else is there in drug news, Kristin?
In perhaps an unsurprising pair of news stories, Australia is officially the drunkest country in the world. Australians get drunk more often and drink more on a day-to-day basis than anyone else in the world. But also, beer shortage is a nightmare before Christmas for Australians. And let's remember, to be fair to Australia, their Christmas is in the summer. So they're having their patio get-togethers with a nice beer and, hanging out at the barbecue with your family. That's Christmas for them, right? But there's a beer shortage. So can we all pour one out for Australia, who is both addicted to and suffering from a shortage of alcohol?
Ryan, I love that poncho.
Thank you. This is made by a local Houston artisan, a place called Mochila. It's two brothers that moved here from Ecuador, and they hand make ponchos and hats and boots and things. They're amazing. I love them. So I love this thing. That's great. But as to this story, pre-pandemic, I used to go to Australia pretty much every year, and I would spend between 6 and 11 weeks down there for fringes. And let me tell you, it is absolutely the drunkest country. It's no contest. Everybody's drinking all the time. It's a full-on culture there.
And just that cut across demographics and age.
Yes.
Yeah, or like toddlers
absolutely
getting drunk at preschool and stuff
yes.
like that.
Yes. It's everybody. But the weird thing about it, though, is their beer is not they're very proud of their beer, very proud of it, but it's not any I'm just gonna get taken out by an Australian sniper right now. It's nothing to write home about. It's pretty bland and not that impressive, and they have laws, so the ABV can't be higher than I think roughly 6.5%. So even their intense IPAs are only 6%, which is a regular normal IPA here.
Watch it, really, Ryan, Olivia Newton-John is standing outside your window with a pistol as you speak.
We had John Bennett on the show last week. He's gonna be after you now.
All I got to do to John Bennett is that, and he can't reach me. He's a very short man.
Oh, I didn't know that. He looked tall on Zoom. So.
John is one of my best friends. He stays in my guest room about once a year for about a month.
Nice.
And he's a small man. Also, I'm a ridiculously large man, so it's comical to watch us
but you're
hang out.
Hairy men, so there's
a commonality. All right. Well, moving on from back to the home country, some European drug stories involving politics.
Mm-hmm.
British lawmakers call down for crackdown on cocaine culture as drug is detected throughout the halls of Parliament. So apparently, British lawmakers are just doing coke all the time, which is not surprising.
But also, cocaine and culture are a contradiction in terms.
Finland's PM, sorry for clubbing after COVID contact. Can I point out that the current Prime Minister of Finland is younger than I am and very good looking?
She can get it. She can really get it.
She had left her cell phone, her prime ministerial cell phone at home, and went out clubbing. And while she was clubbing, the notification that she had come into contact with someone with COVID popped up on her prime ministerial phone, and no one could get in contact with her because apparently no one in Finland had their prime minister's personal phone number while she was hitting the clubs
until 4 a.m.
That is the worst story and the best story.
I know. I cannot stay up later than like 11 o'clock. I just fall asleep. Like who has the energy to be the prime minister of a country and stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning? Like,
can I just say also, if they tried to do this crackdown on cocaine culture in the United States, if they like said, we're going to find anybody that's on cocaine in the Senate or the House of Representatives, we would just have no government anymore.
Wait, are you trying to tell us that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are on the desk in the Oval Office, just like the salutate desk, whatever they call it, and just like railing lines with each other as if they were on Veep? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
But I feel like all of those January 6 bros are on cocaine, like Josh Hawley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think the only person in the government, in our government, that's not on coke is Mitt Romney, and that's just
he's the one who should be.
He's right. He's just too square. He's just like, no, never.
Lighten up, Mitt. I mean, come on, everyone will like you more. Do some cocaine. So speaking of maybe some beneficial drug news, I don't know why these are all drug stories. Viagra may decrease risk of developing Alzheimer's by nearly 70%. So,
man, I am all in on Pfizer. Hell yeah.
Pfizer saving the world one pill at a time.
I really wish that was how Still Alice ended, that somebody just gave Julianne Moore a whole bunch of Viagra.
Listen, they keep trying to make female Viagra and failing. It doesn't work that way. But I was wondering, maybe this works because like it's like having sex is like brain stimulating because you have to like solve a problem, you know, of trying to get your partner off.
So many of your straight male viewers just went, what?
We don't have any straight male viewers.
Reveal.
All of our viewers are queer. I also agree. I think the act of creating new memories probably helps keep the brain active. And there is some weird stuff that sex, at least straight sex, this might be one of the benefits of straight sex, causes DNA repair between partners. Like your body's DNA talks to your partner's body's DNA during sex, and it can actually cause repairs at like a subcellular level.
How does it do that?
Do I look like a scientist or someone hosting a talk show from his living room?
I'm skeptical of that. I don't think that's true. I think that's
and this is something that Joe Rogan has never said, or any of this. Like, I don't know how this works. I just read an article once, and maybe it's wrong, or maybe it's right. Don't take horse dewormer for COVID. Get yourself vaccinated. Omicron or Nomicron, get yourself vaccinated.
Well, if we've all shot our bolt over the Viagra story, we just have one more to close on, and there's not really a lot to say about it, but I think we can all send our good wishes to the Ever Given as it has one more try to navigate the Suez Canal. So maybe, guys, maybe you thought that the supply chain was bad now. Maybe it's about to get a whole lot worse, or maybe it's about to get better because this giant ship will make it. But Godspeed, Ever Given. We're all rooting for you.
Well, I'd like to take this moment to thank everyone who's ever been on the show for doing this show and giving us some entertainment during COVID-19. We've had lots and lots of fun. We got to break Joe Biden winning the election. We got to break a man being denied essential surgery because
Adam, on behalf of the entire civilized world, thank you for breaking the news about Joe Biden winning the election.
We were it. We were one of the first comedians to get to do.
Someone else called it like right before we went on air.
Yes, we actually might have been one of the first ones to get it out there. But Ryan, Daniel, thank both of you for coming on the show, and everyone. Bad Gay Movies, Bitchy Gay Men. You can listen to it anywhere podcasts are streamed. Ryan Adam Wells. You can find him on Bandcamp or anywhere where music is streamed. And if the 500 list comes to your town, go watch it. It's a fantastic show. And if you don't have any merchandise with an ostrich on it, send that to Ryan as well. He loves photos of ostriches. Thank you for joining us. I'll see both of you after the show. Kristin, do you want to sing us out?
I will, but first, Adam, now that we're wrapping up this show, where can people find you?
Oh, wow. They can find me on, I'm not really doing Facebook that much anymore, but they can find me on my Facebook or the stillyourfriend.com, my website, or at stillyourfriend on Twitter.
That's great. And you can find me on my podcast, The Middle-Aged Candy Store, and on whatever we're going to be doing next with this project, because we'll be back with something new. So don't unsubscribe just yet. But yes, I do have a song to end with for you tonight. And this song comes from She Loves Me, and real heads will know that it's actually sung by the sorta villain of the show, so I had to change a couple of words, but it just made it more COVID appropriate. So here we go. It's been grand knowing you, grand being your friend. You've been kind, loyal, and so generous, right down to the end. Yeah, don't leave, letting me leave, that would be far too painful to stand. It's been fun, now I must run, but it's been grand, perfectly grand. I'll be sad leaving you, warm, intimate club. It's a small pleasure, but I'll treasure each warm, virtual hug. It's been grand, let me say, and let me say au revoir, not goodbye. It's been fun, now I must run, but it's been grand, perfectly grand. And it has been grand knowing you and doing this show for you for the past, long time. Go forth and enjoy yourselves, Omicron or an Omicron, and we'll see you soon.